Hello and welcome to round 9 of the RF1 Racing League. Last time out in PC Division 2, Prix took a fantastic win at Silverstone through up into P2 of a very tight Drivers' Championship. This time out, of course, we are at the Circuit Zandvoort, a very exciting, undulating circuit, lots of ups and downs, and a couple of bant turns to make it very interesting for these drivers. 15 turns, 2 DRS zones, and you can see on the track map here just how much elevation it has. Outlet with
Turning a lap around Thunderbolt, want to brake at around 25 meters for the first corner, shift down to second, then up to fourth on the exit. So you have a bit of extra rotation. Don't go too wide though. For the next set of corners, go to the left curb right here. Take a late apex for turn 3. For turn 4, go deep. Try not to look up, but also be really careful on throttle application coming out of the corner because you're likely to spin out. On the stretch, you can cut a bit of that right hand side curb. For turn 8, you want to stay as close to the inside as possible. Be really on the limit. For turn 9, you want to jinx a bit left and right, so you have a better entry angle. For turn 10, you want to really be kind of flowing through the corner. For turn 11, take a wide entry and a late apex, so you have a bit of extra speed coming through this DRS straight. For turn 12, you want to brake 5 meters before the curb on the left starts, really cut that curb on the inside. For turn 13, you want to have like a kind of double apex. Also, you want to be careful on the exit coming to the last 2 turns. You really try brake into that corner, so you have a nice exit coming out of the last turn. Stay to the inside as that gives you a couple of hundredths. And that's basically it for a lap around Thunderbolt.
And there we go, a fantastic guide around the circuit there. Apologies to Fraser for calling him Aralak will be showcasing his hot lap talents in the qualifying session coming right up. Of course, I am joined by Jot James.
Yeah, good evening and welcome.
Didn't get that name wrong, and we are here for qualifying at Zandvoort, and you might well notice it is decidedly damp around this Dutch circuit.
Yeah, we've got rain coming down and not too few, if you ask me. Can be an exciting race if it stays wet.
Everyone out on intermediate tyres right now, which shows that it's a lot to manage, but we can still expect them to want to take some risks in this qualifying session because this track isn't the easiest to overtake on. The dirt is not as much of a factor in the F1 game, but it's still a consideration. And so you want to get as high up on the grid as possible, even in these tricky conditions.
It will be exciting to see how much risks they are willing to go into the qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see the winner from last time out, Cruzo, in the McLaren, rounding that banked turn 15 to start his first flying lap in qualifying. Let's see what he's got. Coming into turn 1, Tarzan. Very tight. You want to make sure to not hit the curb on the inside. It will spin you around so fast as that racing point has found. Then you sweep through 2 into 3, and this, another banked turn. Where there was, especially in the wet, there were so many lines you can take here before this run, flat out run through a winding section into sector 2.
And Cruiser delivering amazing speed so far.
Absolutely. I mean, he showcased his talent last week. 2 weeks ago, with an excellent win, and he's definitely, especially one of the front runners here, even in these conditions.
Yeah, and that win, it pushed him quite far. He was P6 and now he's on P2 in the championship.
Yeah, that mid-pack is so tight. Of course, Mill is leading the championship by quite a way, but behind that it is the slimmest of margins. 3 drivers tied on 61 points, actually, which is quite crazy to see as we see Cruzo
from
round the final
Cruzo
couple of
on
corners.
second to Valttering, it's just 14 points from place P2 to P8.
Yeah, so we might see a lot of shuffling by the end of today. He turns around the final corner, not tagging the wall, keeping it very clean. Across the line with a 19.2. That is definitely a good benchmark set by the McLaren driver heading into the rest of this qualifying session.
And it's provisional pole for him so far.
Absolutely.
Even our championship leader, Mill, can't keep up with that.
Yeah, 3/10 off right now.
Yeah.
But of course, they're just going to be getting the bearings here in the opening of qualifying, and the track can evolve so much through qualifying, especially on a damp surface. the cars going over at very high speed, drying the track out, and give the cars a lot more pace in the final moments. And Hamlin, our Division 3 driver, standing in as a substitute, goes in P3 with a 1:19.5, known for his very solid pace around this track. Around all tracks, really.
So is Tim Alele, who just goes on his first hot lap, also a Division 3 driver, but championship leader there.
Absolutely. Hamlin and Tim Alele now acting as teammates in the Mercedes team down there, and they are running away with the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, they keep it like realistic
Exactly.
with the Mercedes team.
Equal cars, but it sure doesn't feel like it sometimes. As Tim Alele has a bit of a squirrely moment going around that advanced turn 4, but keeps control of it, and it's very difficult to identify the optimal line around a banked corner, especially in the wet. So may not have lost that much time there. This is one of the ones I found to be quite tricky to check the traction. You want to avoid the curb as well. And in these conditions, you've got to be so careful. Of course, there is no DRS open in the wet conditions, because otherwise the drivers would have zero control. So it's just the power of those V6 turbo hybrid engines. So around the final corner, you can see the banking. It's actually,
That's
that
an
could be
invalidation.
invalidation, but he did lose quite a bit of time, so it might not be. Oh,
Ooh. And you can see a Red Bull spun around.
he does set a valid lap there with a 19.8, putting him in a P5, but that was not a very clean third sector with that off at turn 14 and hitting the wall on the exit of 15. So I'm sure he'll be looking to improve by a considerable amount from here.
Scary
Yeah,
that
I
he
mean,
still can go that much faster.
it is. But also, I mean, this is something we've seen from Tim Alele sometimes. When he's been a substitute in Division 1 earlier in the season, he's had to push a little bit more than he's used to in Div 3. And we've seen when he is forced to push, sometimes he can make mistakes. So, definitely not a guarantee to be tearing things up in Div 2 here. He's going to have to be cautious. I always see looking further down the order. One goal, one dream is on a lap right now.
He is, as far as I know, the only one driving with a keyboard.
Yeah,
Still
absolutely.
amazed by that fact.
Especially conditions like this, and you can see the wheel spin he's getting there. I absolutely do not envy his position. Even with some of the assists that Codemasters can give you in this game, it really does not help in conditions like this, in difficult traction zones. So I think he's definitely be hoping that things stay dry for the race, because otherwise it could be a long 36 laps. But he has set himself in P9 on his first lap. We'll see if he can improve that on this one. And as we see, coming across the line and does not improve.
3 seconds off.
Yeah,
Wondering
so
that he didn't went in after that lap.
It could be that he was hoping to use that as a recharge lap to then push again, but ERS isn't looking particularly high and still getting wheel spin. We go on board with Mill now, who is on a second flying lap, coming to the end of sector 1 and has gone green, but is not quite on the pace of Cruzo, championship leader. Let's see what he can manage coming to the second sector.
While Raw is crossing the line on his first hot lap. Let's see where he ends up. P9 in front of 1 goal.
That is impressive.
It's a nice comeback for him.
Yeah, drove in Div 2 earlier in the season, then dropped back to Div 3 for a little more competition, but it's showing he can still hang it in here with the higher division. As we see Mill come around the final corner. We want to try and get the track down as early as possible, because the corner will throw out. You can't get it too early. He comes across the line and does improve to a 19.3. Just enough to steal P2, but not enough to pull provisional pole. And Cruzo right behind him around the final corner. Let's see if he can extend that gap a little bit, coming across the line. And he will. It's a 118.9, shaving a good 0.3 off his previous lap here.
Incredible pace on this track conditions by
Yeah,
Cruzo.
absolutely. I mean, the track may be improving as these cars dry out a little bit, but the rain is still falling heavily. I think it's just getting more and more of a feel for it, and he is smashing it right now. And you see Aralat heading across the line, who hasn't set a lap yet. This will be the first one, and it will only be enough P14, but it is launched him into the pack now. As Raw 13 retires from the session, and I have to imagine that is... It was his retirement in the pits from what I'm hearing, so that may just be feeling that he can't improve that time. Oh, never mind. As we can see on that angle, that is possibly looking to go into the pits, but is spun out on the start-finish straight. That looks nasty, and I think the drivers will be fortunate to have avoided that. But you can see in these conditions. Oh, and Weltering goes as well. It looked like in the same position and has retired from the session. And the trailing cars having to struggle to avoid the Stricker and Alpha Tauri. As Cruzo actually flies past and sets an even faster lap. That is crazy. And these conditions already taking names and taking drivers out of this qualifying session early. That was madness.
Oh,
So,
that was a crazy crash by Weltering.
Yeah, I mean,
Looked brutal.
definitely times when you're glad that this is only a virtual race.
Yeah, I hope he's fine, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he set a decent lap already, 19.3. Currently enough for P3. Likely to be up near the front of the grid even at the end of this session, but would have been hoping to have more chances. As we go on board with Nordi, who has not improved in the second sector. We'll see if we can keep it clean through this final corner and not lose it, and hopefully make an improvement from P8 where he currently sits. As he comes across the line, what will it be? It will be an improvement, 19.7, which is enough for P6.
We see Felix, who gets his first lap across the line. Oh, I'm sorry, it was his out lap. My mistake.
We're on board with Timilele right now, who has not improved through the first two sectors. So I think struggling to keep it clean in these conditions. Has a nicer run on that final curve. This is where we had trouble last time out. Again, a little bit squiddly, but keeping it pointed in the right direction. And does manage to improve it a 119.4, which is good enough for P4 right now, pushing his Div 3 teammate Hamlin out of the second row. Now, of course, this would typically be the time in the broadcast that we mention the tyre rule, where if you qualify in the top 10, you have to start on the tyre you qualify on. That does not apply if the qualifying session is wet, and so all 16 of these drivers will have free choice of tyre going into the race, although I have been hearing rumours that it may be a wet start to the race as well, so there may not be very much in the way of free choice. As we go on board with Cruzo, who I think Cruzo might have fueled up for a long run. He's just trying to push as much as possible, get the best out of the track, has not improved on that lap, and likely will be looking to come into the pits to get a fresh set of intermediate tyres on, low fuel, and go for one more push. He's got Mill behind to threaten, but also Timilele and Hamlin, of course, Weltering out of the session and unable to challenge. So he'll be hoping that the track does not improve. And you see a couple of cars peeling to the pits here. This is about the time you want to be coming in if you want to have a chance to get out for one more flying run. And it's like a few drivers are opting to do that. The track becoming a lot quieter than it has been in earlier parts of this session.
They're all charging for their last try.
Absolutely,
on hopefully a little bit more a little bit drier track than before.
Yeah, absolutely. But I am noticing that a lot of cars are really not finding improvements, running sort of 2, 3 seconds slower. Obviously, it's easy to make mistakes in these conditions, but I get the feeling that the track might be worsening here. It just might not be possible to get any more pace. Of course, we'll have to see in the final set of runs. Cruiser has opted to stay out for another lap, and in fact has improved to 118.7. So he's clearly decided to just try and find the track at the optimal time by staying out, and it seems to be working out for him here. And the track does have more to give for any of these drivers looking for a final push. Now, we still haven't seen a lap from Felix here.
He's on his out lap at the moment.
Okay. We're currently on board with Martin crossing the line. Is that an improvement? It is an improvement up to P9 with a 120.1. It's quite far
Felix is
back.
pulling in. He sets no lap at the entire qualifying.
Yeah, it looks like it. There likely will not be enough time to set another lap, so may have been suffering out of these conditions and is hoping to have a bit more luck in the race, but if the race is equally wet, that may not be the case.
As far as I know, it's the forecast is that it will start on with rain. So I'm really looking forward to a wet start because T1 Tarzan Bocht, it's crazy on the dry. So I'm really looking forward what Division 2 can show off in a wet
I'm
start.
sure the drivers are not looking forward to it. I see Aralat here, currently P14 with 121.3, coming around the final couple of corners, trying to improve. Let's see if he's got anything. He's not improved through the first two sectors, so this may be another suffer lap as Rashado has retired.
And
And Aralat does not improve.
we have one goal coming out on slicks.
You're kidding.
I am not.
Bloody hell, he's on softs. Yeah, just watching this, it looks like he's made a throw of the dice, and it's not happened.
He is an
I'm
absolute
especially
madman.
surprised that the keyboard player is the one to risk the slit tires on a very wet track. That it's not illegal, I'll say that, but it's definitely brave, as Cruzo has called it a day. I think he's in the pit, so he's definitely done as much as he can. And yeah, one goal here just needs to make sure to avoid impeding anyone. I think the one to watch here right now will be Tori, who's just starting his final lap, and we seem to be having technical difficulties, so I'm going to have to give you a bit of a radio call right now. So Tori is just coming through to the end of sector 1. There's a bit of traffic that might have been impeding a little bit. I'm not too sure. Just hoping that that's not the case. Not improving through the first set by look things, so that may not be happening. Meanwhile, Mill has just crossed the line and the checkered flag has fallen. So Mill will be one of the last cars to set a time, as Hamlin has jumped into P2 with a 118.9. Timolele also on a lap, so that could be an improvement. And Mill coming out of turn 5 around this flat out section, foot to the floor, looking to do as much as possible here. You'll see what his sector 1 split can be. Comes across, and it is an improvement by a 10th. Mill currently sits 10th away from pole position, but just 3/10 away from the front row, so this could still happen. As he rounds turn 10 here onto the back straight. Typically would have DRS, doesn't have it here in the wet conditions, but we'll still get the power down early and fly down the straight. Timolele has improved to P3 with a 109.0, just behind his Div 3 teammate, as Mill rounds turn 13. We're unsure how much he'll have out of this one. He's throwing it round, taking a little bit of curb on the outside. You want to be careful in the wet to not take too much curb, but he comes on the final corner, running right up to the wall as he comes across the line. What time will it be? It will be a 119.2. It's an improvement by a 10th and a quarter, but it is not enough to improve his position. He stays P5. Our championship leader will have some work to do on the start here. And that draws our qualifying session to a close, with Cruzo taking pole position continuing the strong showing he had last time out, with another strong qualifying. Hamlin and Timalele, the Division 3 reserves, coming in P2 and P3 respectively. Great performance from them in the wet. We have Tori, Mill, and Weltering round out the top 6. Behind them, Ricciardo, Nordi, Martin, John Lemon, Donald, Wandor One Dream, Aralat, Raw 13, Hummersep, and Felix the Feline rounding out the field. And as I said before, all of these cars will have free choice of tyre, but they may be stuck on the intermediates or possibly the full wets. So it won't be of much consequence. We'll see what they can do on the race. So, Jock James, what did you think of that qualifying session?
Oh, that was an exciting one for sure. But my conclusion after this is that Timalele and Hamlin may be driving in the wrong league.
Yeah, I think that's been a comment that's been made by all of the Div 3 drivers at some point this season.
Yeah, Cookie is my teammate. He's begging about it all the time, so I had to bring that in for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's just adding realism to our lead. It's got to be the representative of real life as much as possible in Division 3. And having that dominance from Mercedes is just the way it has to be.
Okay, what do you think? How many people will survive T1?
Ooh, when you say survive, do you mean still in the race or still with a front wing? Because I think it's likely that all cars will survive T1 because the speed likely won't be that high in the wet. But there may be a few lap 1 pit stops.
Yeah, that's okay. I would have gone to the next question. How many pit stops we have in lap 1? But now we are going into the
I'll say
formation
5.
lap.
Here we are in the formation lap, and it is intermediate tires. Now from my eye, it looks like it's a little bit drier than it was in qualifying.
Yeah, I'd agree on that one. It looks better.
Yeah, so I think these drivers will be glad about that, and hopefully we'll be, they'll be hoping that they can have a good launch off the line without too much wheel spin and keep it clean through the first couple of corners, because it is tight. But those cars further down, Mill and Weltering especially, they'll be looking to make some gains in the opening couple laps, and so maybe a few risky moves there, and we'll definitely have to keep our eye out on that. Further down the field, we have another Division 3 reserve in John Lemon, who's starting P10. I know he is something of a fan favourite in the chat here.
Did he brought his fan club to Division 2 as well?
Apparently he didn't try to, because he didn't want the pressure added on to being in this high division. So things might be a little bit calm, but I think his fan club is everywhere. So that'll be a lot. As Ricciardo and Nordi have made contact on the formation lap and have been disqualified, they will have slightly colder tyres on the start here. Although in the wet, all tyres are cold, so it may not be of too much consequence. They'll definitely not be happy about it, though. So yeah, I mean, as these cars round the final corner and prepare to line up on the starting grid for this race.
And I'm really looking forward, because then for it, it's so difficult to overtake, but with the rain, the strategy game will be a lot more entertaining.
Yeah, especially that switch between inters and dries that we may be expecting. If you time that right, you can gain a lot of time. And so I'll be looking forward to this as these cars make their way to the grid. And here we go. 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And it is lights out. And away we go. And Timalele has a jump start. Looks like it got away well. Further back, we have Amelie, who's made a great start. Got on the inside going into turn 1. Cruiser trying to hand it around the outside. And we have retirement on There's already a safety car. Raw 13 is out of the race on turn 1, before turn 1, in fact.
Yeah, Raw and Donald, they hit each other on the straight.
And that is a very quick end to the opening dramatics, as the safety car weaves his way quite literally through some of the trailing cars. We will have to see how this works out.
And we see John Lemon with front wing damage.
Let's
Donald
have a
as
look at this
well.
replay. Let's see what happened here. You see Tim Lele jumped a little early, but then further back. Oh!
Oh,
And
there was.
yeah, there was some wheel spin from Rashado, it looks like, that punted someone into the wall. And possibly a similar thing behind for Hummerset and Raw 13, I'm not too sure. That is very unfortunate. In conditions like this, it's something can happen. You don't have much practice with making starts in these conditions. And we'll see what the penalty situation is. There is quite a lot right now. So Tim Lele has a drive-through for that jump start. We'll not be able to serve it under this pit stop. And we have a host of safety car collision penalties. I would have to assume that some of those could be removed under review, but we'll have to see how it works out. All we know right now is that there are 15 cars left in this session, quite a few in need of new carbon fibre on the front of their car.
And we have Nordy going in for a new front wing. And I think John Lemon will follow him. Yeah,
Looks
the
like
entire back
Hummerset is
marker
the only
going
one
in.
of those that back group who did not need a new front wing. But so we'll move up to P11. Everyone else likely going to come back out in the same order that they came in, although some of them will have to serve penalties. So we'll see how it shapes out once all is said and done. But at the front, Cruzo just about holding on to that front position over Hamlin before the safety car came out, was handing it around the outside of turn 1 when it got called. And it would have been very close to be able to hold on to it if we stayed under green flag conditions, but as it stands, he is in P1, Hamlin behind. Tory, I think, held position there, but Mill has lunged up a spot. And Timalele, the big loser out of that start, losing 2 to those drivers behind. Weltford also losing a position. And Wandel jumped up a little bit there. Before, of course, the shuffle of the back marchers who, well, the current back marchers who may have started near the front of the field but have had to pit for new front wings.
Yeah, we have, of course, we have Felix and Hummerset gaining a lot of positions with just staying out of the trouble.
Absolutely. Which is sometimes all you can hope for under a wet start. You know, it's very difficult to make moves, and so you gotta hope that it works out.
It was a replay again of the start.
Let's try and watch what happened to Raw 13 this time. You can see the McLaren in the background swerve immediately on the throttle. Well, not immediately on the throttle, but pretty soon. And unfortunately, it looks like the advertising board is in the way of our view there, so we don't get to see exactly what happened, but it did not look pretty, as Cruzo is right up on the back of the safety car here. In these conditions, you'd really want to be leaving a lot more space to make sure that if you keep control of the car, you know, very easy to lose it on the safety car when you're trying to keep the tyres warm in these conditions. We saw Russell do it in the dry, so it's possible in the wet. You want to make sure that you don't make contact with the safety car or with any other car, because it will net you a pretty hefty penalty. So I'm surprised these drivers are not leaving as much room as they possibly should. We'd have to expect we're going racing very soon. The safety car can't start too much longer.
So according to the race director, I think it could have been John Lemon who punted Raw 13.
Oh, that's not nice. And yeah, the safety car is indeed in this lap, as Cruzo is back in the field up, coming down this straight as the safety car pulls away. Now, of course, he wants to try and make sure that the safety car has enough room to get back into the pits before he crosses the control line. And then the cars will not be able to overtake until the start-finish line. And it's up to Cruzo when he decides to bolt. And it looks like it may be now. He's put the throttle down, and the car's round this final corner with a bank in. And as Cruzo crosses the line here, we will go green once again at Zandvoort. He's got a good launch away from Hamlin here, and he's holding it into turn 1 without too much trouble. And the front train, inseparable through the
Nordy,
opening few corners. Oh, as Mill looks up the inside of Tori here, going into turn 4, cannot make it work, but it's right on the back of him, coming through this sweeping set of corners, falling back a little bit, but he's unable to hold on to it. I think on that restart we saw Timolele had to peel into the pits for a new front wing, and Martin is
Martin's
out of the race, has lost it going into turn 8 by the look of things, or turn 7 I believe, and that is now the car's down to 14. We have not seen a safety car for that, so the cars in front are able to continue to race, and Cruzo is looking to gap Hamlin here. These front four really have broken away from the rest of the pack, weltering 3 seconds back off the lead group. And already, with less than a lap of green flag running here, you can see that these cars are stretching their legs. Tori is right on the back of Hamlin, possibly looking to make a move into Tarzan here. Doesn't have the assistance of DRS. With both his wet and we just come back under safety car, Cruzo sets the fastest lap of the race, and Tori's not able to make the move stick. But he's staying close. Mill dropping back a little bit. And it's really a battle between the front four here. Although further back we have Nordy going around the outside of Aralat, and Aralat has made contact, and Weltering is out of the race. Aralat is spun round on turn 4. Weltering is out of the race. What has happened here?
Weltering retired in the pits.
Ah, okay.
We put wets on it, then he retired. I don't know why, but
That is interesting. Maybe tried to make a strategy call, but it wasn't the right one. Aralat's come out as a massive loser out of that. It was Nordy tried to round the outside in turn 4. Aralat couldn't hold the inside line, made contact, and I believe that is a missing segment of front wing. Yes, it is quite a hefty chunk on that right hand side. May have to pit.
and suddenly Hammersep, Division 3 replacement, he finds himself on P7 suddenly.
Yeah, keeping his nose clean. The leader of the 2 racing points there.
Probably doesn't know himself how he ended up there, but
no, neither do we. As Cruzo sets another fastest lap, just warming into this race, stretching out a bit of a lead at the front. If you look further down the order, Timolele looking to overtake Rashado here. Timolele had to pit earlier, but has already made it up a couple places, and looking to make it 3 against this McLaren driver, but it's not close to going to turn 1.
Timolele served his drive-through, that's why he had to go to the pit.
Ah, is that what it was? Okay. We have Mill riding up on the back of Tori here. Within half a second. Possibly looking to get some traction down onto that Lonbat straight.
We have Weltering's NPC car driving around the track. That could be dangerous.
Oh, that is interesting.
Cruzo's pulling up to him now.
Yeah, that car really should be parking up somewhere. As Hamlin has fallen back, actually, Tori's right on the back of him. Hamlin might have had a moment here, and Cruzo is just broken away from the entirety of the field. Now Tori just 3/10 back, right on the gearbox of Hamlin. And if he can get better traction around this final turn, he may be looking to make the pass into turn 1. Yeah, we see a Weltering's car there, pulling to the pits. His teammate Tori looking around the outside of Hamlin, coming through turn 1. Hamlin has to keep it clean on the inside, does. Leaves Tori no room to move around the outside and keeps the lead. And now Mill has seen the opportunity. Looked up the inside of Tori. Tori has the better traction coming out. And they hold positions, but in very dramatic fashion. And all this fighting is just letting Cruzo walk away at the front of this race. But I'm sure these cars won't care too much because they all want to hold on to P2. Hamlin has trouble there. Tori looking up the inside, can't make it work. Looking up the inside again. I'm so aggressive, trying to pressure Hamlin as much as possible. Is it going to work? Looking to pull to the outside, coming down the straight, using overtake, but Hamlin is able to stay ahead. He's trying to move around the outside. He makes the move. And oh my goodness, that was an incredibly brave move
was
going there.
brilliant to watch by Tori.
Yeah, and Mill is having a look as well around Hamlin now, looking down the inside, and he's making it work. I think Hamlin is struggling in these conditions and just doesn't have enough to fight. Meanwhile, Crusoe is 6 seconds ahead of the field. Hamlin looking to fight back on the outside of turn 1, goes for the switchback. Will it be enough? No, Mill just holds on to the position for now, but he's so close in turn 4. It's possible. Oh! And he's made contact with the tyre. It looks like his front wing has stayed intact. Just slid around a little bit and dropped back. Hamlin very fortunate to walk away from that battle. And he has come off worse off, but only in terms of position, not in terms of carbon fibre. Now, Timalele is now past Hummersep, is still looking to range up onto Ricciardo. Not having too much luck by the look of things. His Alfa Romeo teammate of John Lemon, fellow Division 3 driver, currently leading the two of them. And we have a possibly unfortunate report from one of our pit lane reporters that on that start line, Ricciardo's tyres may have been glitched, which is what caused the run into weltering on that start, I believe. That is very unfortunate to hear. Definitely not what we want to see in this race. As Hamlin just about holding on to the back of Mill, dropping back to a gap for just about a second. Mill a second and a half back from Tori, and this battle seems to have calmed down a little bit. Further back, there is such a tight pack between P6 and P10, really.
Yeah, Donald is leading the pack of 6 drivers, 5 drivers, all following him.
Maybe not quite having the pace, but being able to defend that position. It's about where you put the car. Wandall goes quite wide through that corner. You can pit so many lines there, and it looks like it's worked out quite well. John Lemon behind us looking, but none of the cars seem to be able to make a move here. Tim Lele has ranged right up onto the back of Ricciardo. And so it's a very tight train here. Donald actually has pulled away from Wandall here. But we're looking to make that stick and leave Wandall to defend against these drivers behind.
Timalele is eager to find a way around Oroshido, but doesn't find
Lemon
it now.
trying to go around the outside of Wandall here, coming through turn 10 and makes it stick, and Wandall has had trouble with traction, and Ricciardo has made it past as well. It's so tricky to get traction down on keyboard, and Wandall is not finding it easy in these conditions, and has just fallen 2 places on one straight, and now he's falling into the clutches of Timalele. Looking to get good traction coming out this final corner. Wandall manages to hold on fairly well. In front, Ricciardo and John Lemon wheel to wheel into turn 1. John Lemon looking to hold the inside, and Ricciardo manages to make the move stick, move up into P7.
We almost saw a double Alfa Romeo overtake.
I mean, we did. It's just that one of them went forwards and one went backwards. Perfectly balanced. And
as all things should be.
Exactly. And now our 2 Alfa Romeos are one on top of the other in P8 here. As Aralak really, I think, had to make an extra pit stop and is way back off the field. Not what you want to see. Felix equally out of the battle. They're going to be looking for safety cars, which are entirely possible in these conditions, to bring them back into this race.
The big winner of the start so far, of the early phase, is Donald, in my opinion. Moved up from P11 to P6, but struggling now with Oroshido trying to pass him on the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose you could say the big winner was Crusoe, who has been absolutely flying as Mill pulls into the pits. Now,
he stays on intermediates.
He is on intermediates. I don't think the tyres were with that one, so it's possible that was an early pit stop forced for a front wind change, as Crusoe has disconnected from the session. And that will not help his lead. He's only got a lead of 6 seconds, and he has to hope that the AI can hold on to that for a little bit while he reconnects. Further down the field, Timalele lost a few places on the start, but is trying to climb back up, has made it past Donald again. And it's now a battle to see if John Lemon, his teammate, made it past his... Oh, Donald has run wide there onto the grass, letting John Lemon pass. John Lemon didn't have very much traction on that straight, but Donald made the mistake and allowed John Lemon to make his way through. Meanwhile, at the front, that gap has fallen by a second with this AI driver that Cruiser has been forced to utilize for a little bit. He'll look to get back into session as soon as possible to try and make that stick. And Hamlin was holding onto the back of Mill quite well, but of course Mill has now pitted, so Hamlin finds himself in P3. And the cars are a little bit more spaced out, finding their position on this track and try to get some consistency in these conditions.
But Mill is already chasing down Nordy on fresh tires. He picks up 2 seconds a lap on him.
I looked to the race director, and Mill did not make a front wing change on that pit stop. That was purely for tires. So whether the intermediates are suffering this early in the race with it, not being too wet, maybe they're overheating slightly. So he made the decision for a stop.
Yeah, and he saw the gap in front of the pack because he pulled out just 3 seconds in front of Orishido.
Yeah, I mean, if you see a window, it can be good to go for it. At the front, Cruiser is now just down to 3 seconds. We will see if this AI driver decides to pit stop, because Cruiser is not in control of that. Does choose to stay out, but this is not ideal either way. The McLaren driver will be hoping he can get back in and hold on to that position.
Well, you're gonna have to come back quite quickly if he's back.
Just rejoined. So hopefully he can take control of that car cleanly and keep charging off into the race lead. Meanwhile, Timalele has made his way onto the back of Rashado here. Did not have the best of starts, but now is trying to make a bit of a comeback drive here. Back up to P7 with a McLaren in front of him. Gap just half a second, but you've got to be very close around this track to make an overtake, unless there's a mistake made by the guy in front. So I'm sure that's what Timalele will be hoping for. And One Goal, One Dream has just pulled into the pits and has gone into the hard compound tyre.
He is an absolute madman.
I would have to agree. I cannot see that working at all. But I'll have to see how he gets on, but I am not hopeful. Those hards is probably looking to get them to the end of the race.
He came out right in front of Aralak, so let's see how he can defend against him on hard tires.
I can already hear he just can't get any traction down in that engine. I think it might have been that One Goal saw that the intermediates were going off, had to make a tyre choice and decided to try the slick tyres, but it really is not working. His teammate Hamlin has pulled into the pits and has made the safe choice onto intermediate tyres. I'm sure Aralak is screaming into his headset right now, looking to get past the risky call of One Goal. And he does manage to make it work. One Goal not having the pace, but also not falling back as far as I expected. But the problem is that the rain is still falling. It's not like we have a track that's clearly dried and will be ready in a couple of laps. This track will stay damp for at least 10 minutes, I think. And
Rashado went off and lost his entire front ring on the left.
Oh, that's not good. He's got John Lemon right behind. He was fighting with Timalele. It's possible that it was an error forced by one of the Alfa Romeos. Now the other one can profit off it as well. John Lemon making his way round the inside. And Cruzo has lost the position, still ghosted by a lot of things, cannot rejoin. And Tori has been able to take the lead over the McLaren driver through that. Oh, we'd like to make as much of a gap as possible. That is so unfortunate for Druzo. He'd be hoping to get back in as soon as possible to fight this one back. Oh! And race control there have enabled DRS. So Wondol's decision doesn't seem quite so foolish now, because
Yeah,
the
his time has
stewards
come now.
seem to think that this track is ready for dry weather racing. But I am shocked because the rain is still falling quite heavily.
But Timberlake goes
Rashado-
on mediums as well.
Yeah, and you see a pack of drivers here electing to go onto the slick tyres. Despite this, I'm still not convinced that it's time. We'll have to see how the deltas work out, but this track looks treacherous. Wondol is just about holding on here. Unless our spectator perspective is telling us a couple of lies. But Wondol is having some wheels. We'll have to see how some of the keyboard players manage. As we see Mill and Hamlin fighting around, possibly racing to the pit lane here to try and get those slick tyres on if they think it's the time. Tori ahead, as well as Nordi, have pitted. Tori picked up a penalty in the process. And Mill and Hamlin. Oh, Miller lets go into the pits. Hamlin goes out for another lap. Mill looking for the undercut, and that looked a bit sketchy. That could have caused trouble with Mill cutting across into the pit lane. They managed to keep it clean. And
Hamlin is the only one who pitted for Inters from the front row.
That's very good point. So he's hoping that this track has not improved, but if DRS has been enabled, it's possible that it has improved. And we'll have to see if Hamlin can gain on Tori ahead. The gap is currently 2 seconds. Hamlin on the fresh intermediate tyres, Tori on the fresh medium compound tyres. Yeah, of course.
I just don't think that will pay off for Hamlin. He's already losing it, and he has to pit for sure another one.
That's unfortunate. And Rashado
Retired.
has called it a day by the look of things. That contact with the wall has made one too many pit stops and does not wish to continue this race. As Felix behind pulls into the pits.
Next to Cruzo, who is still... Oh, he's pulling into the pit. Just
Oh yeah,
I'm talking
Cruzo
about it.
just serving a penalty here, but it is elected to switch to the dry compound tyres, and I think we have hit the crossover. And Hamlin has had to bite the bullet, pitched for a penalty in the process, but has decided that this intermediate gamble has not worked off. I mean, I wouldn't call it much of a gamble. It looked like the right call when he made it, but the track did improve, and he's been forced onto the dry weather tyres and lost a position in the process. Cruzo is back in the race, back on dry weather tyres, and almost runs into the back of Nordi there. And Cruzo looking to make up some ground and recover from that unfortunate disconnection early in the race. Let's see what he can do. He's just half a second back from the Division 3 substitute.
And with Thomas Epp, the last driver pulling into the pits, who's still on intermediate, Thomas Epp and Aralak.
Well, so this race is now officially dry at the halfway point, and looks like Nordi had a bit of a moment. Cruzo managed to get past, and now has his sight sets on Tori 10 seconds up the road. Both drivers on the medium compound tyre. There were a lot of different tyre decisions here. Some drivers on the mediums, some on the hards. I think the mediums will be able to make it, and so the hard compound may have been a little bit too cautious. John Lemon and Felix on the soft compound tyres will likely have to pit again, but they might be able to extend. And of course,
they'll have to pit for sure. I can't imagine them making almost 20 laps on Sanford with soft tyres. No way, in my opinion.
Yeah, it depends how much they need to push, because if the track is still damp, they need to back off a little bit. And slightly colder conditions, they might not wear as fast, but it will need some expert tyre management. I think John Lemon's ways of the questionable strategy may have returned there, unfortunately.
Even in Division 2.
Yeah, very little time to decide what compound you want to go on to, when the main call you're making is whether you stay on intermediates or go to slicks. Well, he's made a call, and I'm not sure it's going to work out too well, as we have a yellow flag in sector
With
3.
Aralak,
That
who
is
spun
Aralak,
on the
who has
last
hit the
corner,
wall, and he's actually backwards.
but it seems like his car
Manages
is
to
still
spin it
intact.
round, keeps it alive, and can pull into the pits.
Yeah,
Or
he doesn't
not.
need to. He's good.
I
His
am
car is-
amazed that his car is undamaged, and so he just spends a little bit of time looking backwards, is able to continue, and Tori sets the fastest lap. It's to be expected. Cruiser behind, definitely trying to range up on the back, manages to improve. Hamlin even further behind, doing even better. And you're expecting see purples all over the board here as the track continues to dry. But you want to look at the deltas, and Crusoe has already gained a good 3/10 in that first sector. Gained 7/10 in the first sector last lap. And he may be able to make this happen. The only question is whether he can make the overtake around this difficult track, but DRS is available in case he needs it.
Another purple sector for Crusoe. He's driving with anger in his tummy, I guess.
You don't want to have a driver behind you as Scottish fury going through his veins. That is not something you like to see in your mirrors. And Crusoe certainly has that. He's gaining 10th over 10th.
And Tori, he will be looking on the delta and see Crusoe just making that gap melt between these two.
Absolutely. But of course, something that you cannot ignore is that this track, in conditions like this, it's easy for a car to lose it, and that might print out a safety car. And that would bunch the entire field up, give the drivers a chance to pit for fresh tyres if they want, and really throw the whole battle wide open again. Hamlin has managed to hold on to P4 despite him making an extra pit stop. So definitely a strong performance from the Division 3 driver here. We're looking to overtake his fellow driver Nordi to get onto the podium for the first time in Division 2. And of course, we are assuming that this track does remain dry for the rest of this race, and trying to force try and stretch those out, but it is entirely possible that these clouds come back over and we get another spell of rain. So we may be forced back onto intermediates for the end of this race. We'll have to see how things go. As we look on board with Hamlin, he is holding about 1.5 seconds over Mill, but we hope to keep that above 1 second because DRS is now available, and it will really let a car latch onto the back of you around this track. Timolele setting the current fastest lap. Every car at the front seems to be setting fastest laps when it has a decent pace, and so it's just a matter of who can gain the delta over the other cars behind. And Hamlin is falling into the clutches of Mill here. Gap is now a 10th away from DRS range.
I just saw that Tori got a 5-second time penalty for speeding in pit lane when he went in. But I'm not sure if he served it.
I don't think you can serve a penalty if it happens as you come into the pits. You can't serve it at that stop, so we'll have that added to the end of his race.
Well, then Crusoe might not even need to overtake him.
That is very true, if that is the case. And I'm sure Crusoe will be trying to keep track of the penalty situation, as will Tori, to know what he needs to do.
We have Timolele with another faster sector. He's chasing Mill.
Yeah, Mill just over a second behind, not with DRS. I know Hamlin, we're checking those mirrors constantly, checking the delta constantly to make sure that Mill does not get DRS, because that reduction in drag will leave him a lot of opportunities. Currently, the only driver with DRS will be Donald. But it's falling back there. Timolele actually may have it on Mill. So Mill can't just look forward, he also has to look back because Timolele is within a second and it's possible he could draw Mill away from this battle with Hamlin. And there could be a bit of Mercedes teamwork going on here, even though one driver is driving for Renault right now and the other is driving for Alfa Romeo. Timolele opens the DRS on this back straight. He can't use it to overtake, but he's just hoping to close the gap by a couple of tenths. Seems to have worked. Our lap took the fastest lap of the race. And it looks like it was just a battle for fourth place right now. That's where all the action seems to be. Nordy sets the fastest lap out ahead.
Yeah, I could imagine Timolele doing the same now. Yeah. 1:12.9.
He's going out the inside, going into Tarzan. Can he make it stick? He had DRS down the main straight. He's got the inside line here, which switches to the outside, and he seems to have made it stick. He stayed ahead. Mill trying to sweep round the outside there.
No chance.
Timolele has stayed ahead, and he's in P5 for the time being. Hamlin has taken this chance to make a bit of a buffer, and Mill will have that DRS in mind because he's only 4 tenths back. And we'll try and fight back on the second DRS straight on this lap. But it's possible that Timolele has some pace to unleash that was being held back, and already it seems that he has pulled into DRS of Hamlin. Will that activate on this lap? It looks like it will, so Mill's DRS will not do anything. He may fall back out of this battle and have to settle for P6 for the time being, while Hamlin and Timolele scrap it out for 4th place. And if you think this battle looks interesting, you will want to come back tomorrow because these two drivers will be at it again, I promise you. Division 3 at 9:30 UTC. What a fight that will be. Mill is still in TRS range of Timolele here, so it is still a pack of 3. But I'm sure Timolele will be hoping to leave him out in the cold here. The gap is so close to a second. Going back for Timolele does have the soft compound tyre, and that may help make the gap. Mill opting for the safe call of hards, and he has fallen back to over a second here.
Yeah, Timolele, he's some kind of a showstopper, you know, he's driving in a different league and still it's just about him. Because he has a close fights.
Absolutely, at least we get to see him drive, which is a lot of the time he is just running out at the front. Similar to what Cruzo was doing earlier and Tori is doing now, where there really isn't much action to watch. So at least here we get to see what he's got wheel to wheel as he looked to overtake Hamlin going to turn 1, is not close enough, peaks around the outside but has to settle, sets another fastest lap, and he's currently the quickest car on the track by the look of things. And that'll make Hamlin very nervous indeed. The gap is just 3 tenths coming down this back straight. He might try and make it happen here if he can find a gap, but you may have to wait for DRS.
And it's so impressive, because we have Cruiser on fresher tires, also chasing down Tori, and it's still Timolele who's making the fastest lap, of course, with DRS instead of Cruiser, but...
With DRS, but also Dirty Air, which is quite nasty around this track. He's got a Renault right in front of him, blocking his path. Can he use DRS to get past here? He's certainly going to try, but he's just not got the run. He'll definitely be thinking about getting a run round that final corner with the assistance of DRS on the start-finish straight to move up into P4 and see what he can do. Hamlin possibly touches the gravel a little bit. Does Timolele have the run? He's gaining, but he looks like he's a little bit too far back unless he goes for a massive move around the outside. He looks at it, but Hamlin's able to defend, and Mill actually sets the fastest lap there, and he's right on the back of the pair again. So he's not out of this quite yet. And possibly the mediums maybe not as quick as they need to be, or maybe they're just battling a bit too much. John Lemon has had to pit for another set of soft compound tyres, whereas the rest of the field will be able to make their tyres last to the end of this race. And still drop back a little bit, but he may be able to charge through past Wandall and Donald and whoever else overtakes him here. Timolele right on the back of Hamlin, but cannot make inroads down that straight. He can wait for the next one, but Mill is getting closer and closer as he's held up here. And so it may become a 3-car battle as we come across the line to start the 27th lap for these drivers. Timolele has a great run. He's looking down the inside, and surely he's got this move done. The two cars going wheel to wheel, and Timolele has made it past cleanly, going into Tarzan, and just will be looking to defend here through the opening sector.
Great job by him.
It was a fantastic move. You can see him setting it up for a couple of laps there, and knew when to strike out of that final corner and pulls it off to perfection. Now you have to see if Hamlin can fight back, or whether Hamlin will have to defend from Mill here. I'm sure he'll be hoping to hold on to DRS for as long as possible.
Yeah, it will be a really close finish of the race, I guess, because Mill's on the hard tires. He will go for the long game.
As we look to see what happened a few laps earlier, we're in the battle between Timolele and Mill. Timolele moving down the inside there and making the move stick for P5. Now made it up into P4. Fantastic showing from Division 3 driver. And these two cars now just settling into a bit of a rhythm. Mill tried to get a run on Hamlin, but Hamlin will have DRS, so there's very little to fight with, and Mill cannot make it close enough to make a move here. And Lutz go around the outside, but it's not good enough. And meanwhile, Wandall, Wanjum, and Donald are right on top of each other here in the battle for 7th place.
Yeah, they're fighting for a couple laps now, but Donald just can't make the move around him.
He's very close though, and there will be a DRS zone coming up soon. He might try and make the same move that Timolele did around the Renault counterpart if he can get the traction down against the keyboard player. Wandall touches the grass there.
Struggled, yeah.
And with DRS, Donald may have enough. He's going to have to make the move stick around the outside of this corner here. And Wandall just sticks it on the inside. And
Yeah, he's defending so well against Donald here.
absolutely. It was a fantastic defensive effort. And Donald has to just sit behind again and try and look at another lap. Meanwhile, John Lemon, who is 3.5 seconds behind right now, on fresh, soft compound tyres. So you'd have to expect he's going to be joining that battle very soon. Maybe looking to take P7 and leave Wandall and Donald to fight for P8 instead. Meanwhile, Mill coming through turn 1 on the back of Hamlin. Hamlin looking to defend as much as possible. There's no DRS for a good portion of the lap here, and Hamlin is holding on, but he does not have DRS on Timolele here. So next time we reach those zones, it will be advantage Mill to P5 possibly.
Our leg is getting pulled by a Tory in his DRS zone.
And here we go. Mill gonna have DRS coming down the straight. It's not a very long straight. You ideally just want to use this to get right onto the back of the car ahead, and then use the start-finish straight, which is much longer, to give you that run. And he's setting up here. Can he make it work? He's got to get good traction. Hamlin runs a little bit on the curb there. Mill is gaining. It looks like he will be able to make this move. Looks down the inside, but I don't think it'll matter where he is. He might be clean through it. Hamlin looked around the outside, but touched the grass a little bit and had to back off. But he's having a look down the inside here, cannot make it stick. And turn 4, this will be his last chance to hold on to the position, and he's just too far back. Mill moves back up into P5, and Hamlin struggling to hold on to positions here. Meanwhile, further back, One Door, One Dream has made it past. To stay ahead of Donald, I should say.
Yeah. Donald is chasing him.
John Lemon has gained 2 seconds though, and he's about to latch onto the back of that battle. So, wow, gaining about a second over that last lap in all 3 sectors. So, he's definitely got the pace. As we see a yellow flag in sector 2, that is Hummersep, which had a little bit of trouble.
And we have Cruzo now for the first time below 5 seconds. Not anymore, but he used to be a second ago.
Absolutely. Can I get a quick check of what the penalties are looking like for both Tori and Cruzo here? Because there's possibly a speeding in the pit lane penalty for Tori, but there could also be some track limits. It's not too harsh around this track, but you can still pit them up. Donald is right on the back of Wandle again, as you can see in the top right. Again, just trying to use that second straight to get close and give a good chance around this final corner. But John Lemon is now in the battle, just about within a second of Donald, and should have DRS coming onto lap 31 here.
Donald finally with a good exit, with his chance to finally go around one goal.
Round the outside, can he make it work? Looks like the answer is yes.
Yes,
Wandle is not able to hold on to it. May try and fight back coming through turns 3 and 4 here, but looks like that move was made cleanly for Donald, and he holds P7 for the time being.
Yeah, and he will be so happy to get it off his chest.
Absolutely.
After following him for, I don't know, 10 laps or so.
Wandle does have the older tyres, but they are a harder compound, and that may be, they may have reached a crossover where those might be strong. But for the time being, Wandle's going to have to... Oh! And here we have Mill and Hamlin battling side by side. Hamlin looking down the inside, and Mill just about holds on to that position and staying in P5. Those two cars are still battling off. They may battle into the end of this race. Tim Lilley checking out a little bit. And further back, John Lemon has made it past One Goal, One Dream. Those fresher tyres doing a lot of work. He may be able to make it past Donald here and hold on to P7 for the end of this race.
Yeah,
There is so much going on here.
Yeah, he worked so hard for his P7, and now John Lemon just racing him up on fresh soft.
Yeah, absolutely. Guy just keep flicking back and forth. Hamlin is on the second DRS straight, closing up to Mill, and will try and make a run around these final corners. Whereas I don't think John Lemon will have too much of a chance. But we have to watch both these battles so close because they are for crucial positions in this race. John Lemon is actually so close, he's gaining quickly. We'll see if he can make it work. Doesn't look like it. Hamlin is gaining, but not quite enough to make a move. And I think we'll focus on John Lemon for the time being. He may be able to make something stick on this shorter straight just because of that tyre advantage. But if not, he'll definitely be looking to make the move around the final corner. He has to sit behind, but it's only a matter of time for the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, it's incredible pace he shows off on the fresh soft tire.
Absolutely. It's so important around this track. He's quite far back here, but he will have the instance of DRS, and it actually may not be enough for the time being. He has to sit behind for another lap, or another part of a lap at least. Hamlin, once again, holding on to the back of Mill, trying to get as close as possible to make a move. We'll see if it works this time. Of course, the tyres will not be feeling very good right now, and Mill, with a more resilient hard compound, may just have the pace to stay ahead. Hamlin is 6/10 back, and not really gaining even with the help of DRS. So P6 may be all he can get out of this race, at least on track. John Lemon rounds onto the DRS straight once again. Will he be close enough this time? Or doesn't look like it.
He needs to
He
hurry
has
up.
a look! Oh, that was a
in.
risky move. I cannot expect that there to be a gap there. I think Donald was ahead. John Lemon was getting impatient, tried to make a look. It looks like his front wing is still okay, but that was
Luckily for
risky.
him.
Yeah.
We have one goal going
Has
into the
gone into the
pits.
pits, I think he thinks there's a window there to go for fastest lap. But he may lose the position to Amalat by doing that. He has gone fresh, soft compound tyres. So we'll see what he can do. And that takes the pressure off John Lemon a little bit. He
Yeah, but
can just take Donald on one-on-one.
We have Donald locking up so often now. These tires are really going onto the very last grip they can give him into the race.
Absolutely. And you really do have to wonder, with the condition that Donald's tyres are going to be in, why did John Lemon try and make that move into turn 11? It's such a tight corner. And there really was not the space for it. If you watch the replay, Donald was so far ahead going into the braking zone, he dove for it. I don't know how his front wing stayed intact there,
Yeah,
but
he's so lucky to stay out of the wall as well.
yeah, I'm sure the chat will crucify me for this, but I don't think John Lemon deserved to come out of that without any damage. That was a very rash move, and he's very lucky to come out of it with
He
a
was
full
so
front wing.
close to throw his race away with this move.
Absolutely.
I don't get it.
I mean, we have seen that from John Lemon. He has pace, but he can be inconsistent and sometimes doesn't manage to make the best decisions both on strategy and on track. As it stands right now, there are only 2 laps to go. He is just about within DRS range. But now it is now or never time if he wants to make the move on Donald. Only got chance for 3, possibly 4 more DRS straights.
But Donald, he's an experienced driver. I'm pretty sure he knows what he has to do to keep him out of him behind himself. So
Absolutely, but I mean, those tyres will not be feeling too great. I mean, it's probably about the stint length you'd expect for mediums on a soft medium strategy, but it's a risky strategy to pull around here, so he won't be very happy about it. John Lemon coming down this straight again with DRS. Will he be able to make the move? It doesn't look like it. As we look further up the field, Timolele has actually caught up to the back of Nordi. And as they come around these corners for the final time in this race, it's a battle for the podium at the front. Nordi has the harder tyres, which should be more resilient, but Timolele is flying right now. Got DRS on this straight, will try to range up, and he's got to get as close as possible because he doesn't have as much room to work with on the start-finish line. He's got to make it before the line. And he's spun! No!
oh
And he's lost part of his wind,
no
and that
way.
may be a couple of positions lost. Millie's coming past. That's one
Hamlin's
position, that's
coming
2
past.
positions lost. He tried to force it, but it just wasn't enough. Miller and Hamlin making the move past. And that is so unfortunate.
No, I
Tim
feel
Whaley.
so sorry for him.
Absolutely.
Such a great
Tori
race.
takes the race win by 1.2 seconds over Cruzo. Nordi takes the final spot on the podium after being challenged by Timolele there. Timolele does
Hamlin
hold on to
drops
5th
behind him. Yeah, caught of a 5
on
second
penalties.
penalty.
And John Lemon, on the final lap, is ranging up with DRS, looking around the outside this time, coming into turn 11. Can Donald hold on? He's managed it. He's
Incredible.
managed to hold on. And with a few corners to go, John Lemon is looking to take P7 in this race. We come around the final corners.
And
I
the
hope
chat
the
is going
penalties don't take
crazy.
this off him. That is so deserved after such a strong battle from John Lemon there. He does hold on to P7. And what a performance from the Lemon there. That was a fantastic drive, a fantastic showing from all of these drivers here. What a race.
And as I said, the chat is going crazy. I'm sorry, it's Kato who's going crazy.
Absolutely. Wondol did manage to hold on to P9 there. I'm not sure whether he managed to set a fastest lap on that attempt. And the game has awarded Nordi driver of the day. And there you can see on the replay, Timolele fighting with Nordi as much as possible, try to get it right on the back, and just losing control of the car on the exit. Only ends up losing 1 place off it in the end, but you never want to finish a race with half a front wing. And there's our podium. Congratulations to Tori for taking the race win. Cruzo in P2. We ruined his chances after that unfortunate disconnect. And Nordi, the Division 3 substitute, taking a podium in Division 2 at Zandvoort here. What a performance that was. And there's our final standings. Timolele does end up with the fastest lap. Wondol about 4/10 off with that effort. Timele was flying in those closing stages to get onto the back of Nordi, but it just wasn't quite enough. Oh, whoops. Apologies to Nordi there. I've seen his name a lot, and I assumed that he was someone I'd seen in Div 3, but of course he's a Div 2 driver.
Yeah, he
My
finished
mistake.
P2 last race, I guess.
Oh
so.
my god, that's such a terrible error to make. Anyway, congratulations to those 3 drivers for the podium. And to everyone else who scored points today.
1 goal, missed his fastest lap.
Yeah,
Sadly for him.
4/10 off Timolele.
Yeah. And we have Hammersep with P11, which is his best place ever. Even better than all his P3 Division 3 finishes.
I mean, he did have a strong performance there, to be fair. But I mean, we have to head off quite quickly here because the Division 1 race is about to get underway, and we don't want to take up too much time. So, who would you say is the driver of the day, Jock James?
John Lemon, of course.
You know what? That's difficult too. I'm gonna have to say Truzo because he had a very strong race when he was performing, and got taken out of the fight there by those disconnects, but managed to close the gap and almost made it stick at the end. So despite not being able to make the win happen, I think he deserves a lot of credit for how he drove today. And with that, we shall say farewell for this race and on to the next one, PC Division 1, coming right up on this channel.